And now I'm inviting representatives of another self-organization, the project which lasted for a few years, street actions and exhibitions of the Leto group, or summer group. And here we have Maxim, Ilyukhin and Natalia Struchkova, who will tell us something and probably will also show something. Welcome, Maxim and Natalia. We'll tell you this story. Otherwise, we'll be telling you about the Leto group and the festival, which... Max, come on, switch in. Yes, Leto group, I would dare to say that it was one of the brightest phenomena from early 2000s, one of the strongest performers. Well, that group involved lots of people. Naturally, it had a nucleus, a core, but its shape was expanding all the time, so it's really hard to say. Many of them were the graduates of the Institute of Problems of Contemporary Art from the first course, which formed the environment of young art of early 2000s, and the graduates from the group who gathered in this Leto group, not all of them, but them in the first place, had organized several festivals during several years, which took place in most different parts of the city, where they produced tremendous number of works. And Maxim and Natasha now will tell us about this story, also using some objects symbolizing the absent members of this group and their contribution to performances. Well, yes, Maxim. So it all happened when we finished our studies and already feeling ourselves as artists, and we wanted to create exhibitions, but there were no available spaces and budgets for arrangement. Then, after meeting together, we decided to arrange a festival, a street festival, but there was quite a lot of us, a group of over 20 persons, so every talk, every exchange and discussion ended up in some kind of chaos, and we couldn't come to any agreement. The only thing we could agree upon, it was a time and place where we shall meet next time, and usually it was taking several weeks of very intensive discussions. So we've been creating different titles, names for every year and every day of a festival. Sometimes it was related to a place and place's name. Sometimes it was done just hectically. So it turned out that after the very first, during the first year of the festival, when we were prepared to start, just before starting the festival, we were offered to make an exhibition at the AG Gallery. At least they gave us the space, and in that space, in that gallery, on a daily basis, we had meetings. We were bringing, after a day of the festival on the streets, we were returning back there, sharing our impressions. Every day ended up with some kind of scandals or encounters with militia. Everybody had to go or to run away. We had to find out who is who and who is where. Plus, talking, communicating, preparing for the next day. And then, well, that's how, the organization of the press looked like. And now we can start telling you about other participants of our festival. I want to begin perhaps with this object. That was the object of Kostelarian. So he installed several glass cans like this one on Manier Square. He brought the makeshift a model, which was called a model of Putin's house, and for any passerby he was offering just to drop some money into this 3-liter glass can, just as donations for construction of this Putin's house. So that was his idea and his project. So this object is belonged to Yulia Aksyonova. It's a bra, which she hung out around Manila Square, which she washed and then was put it on the wires just for drying near to the doors to the shopping center on the Manila Square. And she's done it very swiftly and quickly. So police couldn't respond quick enough. So it really looked nice, And this is something from Yasha Kazdan. Even before joining Leto group, he was already experimenting in the design of paper attire, paper garments, and one of the projects, it was a paper suit wearing which he went to St. Petersburg from the railway station where we parked with him, because railway also was 1 hour side. Yasha put on this paper-made suit, got on the train and left, and everything was happening at the railway station. And another participant, forgot his name, he was dealing with music, so he put the tape recorder in Yaroslavsky station building with recording of, birds singing, chirping, and the acoustics was very weird. It was very hard to detect the source of sound. So this sound of, birds singing was overlapping usually, noise of railway station. Yurachey in Tsaritsyn Park had cut live fish into 2 halves. So one half he gave back to the nature, dropping into the pond, and the other half he took with him, probably as a potential contribution to the culinary art. And what I remember, one of the strategies we used while I was involved in this festival, at that time I was working in the office, so I had the following task. He said, I have to create performance while I'm on the way from my work to the festival site. Usually it took me an hour and a half, and what I'm going to use during my performance is anything I have on me, in my backpack, in my trunk of my car, or if I find something just on the sidewalk. I think it was not just me who applied to such strategy.
So, the next person, Gosha Sverdlov. So that's the sound which is peculiar and common for Gosha Perlov. That's what he was using. He used this tape and he put it all around him next to the zoo in Krasnaya Presnya. And so he created this image of the animal that has been caught. And this is Kolya Vavilov, who was writing that he was here all through the festival. So once he bought those air balloons, and so then this sign that Kolya was here went up with the balloon, when the balloons went up to the air. And this happened in the courtyard of the Pushkin Museum. This is Liza Morozova. she bought many different things at the supermarket in New Arbor and then tied them up and was just pulling it on the ground behind her. Then this Lyusha Manilov wanted to have dinner, so underneath the bridge in Yauza. So they had some wine, rubber chicken, and spaghetti. Then Timur Kozarev made spaghetti and pasta and would just give out to all people who was passing by next to Manege Square. But that pasta had an indecent design. It was a different design from what you see here. You probably know the story about sons and father that wanted to teach a lesson, put different pieces of broom together and wanted the sons to break it. So it was very similar to Leto group when we come together in a public space. And what we did for each other was to create the public for ourselves, because it was very important for us to have the other person's view, even though we thought that we were competitors at some point and independent of each other. But we could see it very quickly that we started our performance at the same time without discussing it, and this was a precursor to different flash mobs that appeared a year later. And we used regular homeline phones, and we met together after we agreed. And while looking at this paint, I remember the story related to the Pushkin Museum. We had several acts that took place there. The one by Anton, Litvin. We couldn't find a lock that he used. He wanted to lock the Pushkin Museum, and this was the thing he used. He tried to lock some cashier desks, and so he locked the Pushkin Museum. And I decided to imitate something next to the Pushkin Museum. I wanted to get into the Pushkin Museum. It's really difficult for me to explain what it was that I was doing. I never really expressed, never really formulated the position that I wanted to do something. I just did it. First, Maxim changed his clothes into camouflage. He painted his face. He was wearing green gloves in order to look similar like the bushes. Then he jumped over the fence and began to crawl on the grass. So he was crawling there for a long time, just between the bushes in the courtyard of the Pushkin Museum. Then the policeman noticed him and began to run after him. But then Maxim just again jumped over the fence and escaped. So this was the performance he had. And now this plaster reminds us of Timur Kozarev. Timur Kozarev can be seen on this picture here on the screen, and he was on the Palace Square, Saborная площадь, in the Moscow Kremlin, and he put lots of plaster all over his face with the names of American states, of the states of the US. And this performance took place on the 12th of September, just the day after the tragedy in New York. And many people responded to that tragedy. Yes, I remember that we were watching news on TV and we were discussing whether we should make performances after such a tragic event. And I remember, for example, that it shouldn't stop us from the performance because we planned our performance, so we wanted to have it, even though we did understand how tragic that that event was, that accident was. So we, once we entered the public space, we found ourselves in the media space, and we could feel it. Those symbolic places and symbolic objects and things that we were using. You can say that this was random, but lots of coincidence happened whenever you go out into the city. And I wanted to show you this object, this towel, and Kostya Larin and Yulia Aksyonova decided to use it in order to make the toilets in the Kremlin more home-like. So they put those towels, put some flowers and books for reading in the toilets in Saborная площадь, Palace Square in the Kremlin. And so this was very home-like performance, which was very touching. I was eating an apple in the metro. I was lying on the floor and was eating an apple. Misha Kosolapov decided to give breakfast to the birds in Moscow. And he thought that, oh, poor birds, nobody cares about them apart from crazy elderly ladies. So he took bananas, cut them, and put on a beautiful tray and offered this breakfast to the birds. And this was on the view side. Next to the Academy of Sciences, and this is Yuri Rodchey's, and the fish was different, and he cut this fish in two on the bridge and put one piece into the water, and I don't remember what he did with the second piece. Actually, we didn't know what every person was doing, because when you're involved with your own performance, you don't really know what the other people are doing, and you feel just the energy. More and more people are coming to see you. Passers-by would stop, and it's a special atmosphere, special excitement. So flash mob, this word appeared much later, but it was very similar to this because this was a precursor of flash mobs. When everybody came together, everybody was doing some strange things, and everybody became both participants and viewers at the same time. I also remember Ksyusha Peretrukhina. She didn't come today. She's probably busy at home with some work. And she was playing these ping pong balls together with Yasha on the square next to the Academy of Science. Maybe we forgot someone else from those that we have already forgotten. The Stones. My son gave us some stones today. He said that the stones he had were very beautiful, and I'm sure that somebody was using these stones for their performances. I'm not sure what kind of performance, but I'm sure that somebody used them. I guarantee that somebody used these stones in their performance, because I saw some pictures with those stones. Yulia Aksyonova again, and it's a very touching picture. You probably can't see it, but there are two women that are looking far away, and it's a woman, a mature woman, and her daughter. So this photo was very important for Yulia Aksonova, and she was using it for her performance. Maxim and Natasha, it's very interesting that you have such a big diversity of different techniques and practices that were the precursor of those events that followed later. And it's very interesting to see how you chose places for performances, because it reminds me of the definition of heterotopia by Michel Foucault, the space inside the city. Those spaces that are challenged by others, and this makes people to codify them, to codify those things that are around them, and they inform us a lot. For example, they can be museums, cemeteries, libraries. You mentioned the Academy of Sciences, and actually you had performances in all those different places. So I wonder whether you did it on purpose, whether you did it deliberately. For example, you had several places around the Kremlin, and actually inside the Kremlin as well. You mentioned the Palace Square, Soborная площадь. And for example, were those performances charged politically? Because you had the performances related to some things that happened in the US. And for example, your performances on the square next to the Academy of Sciences was not directly related to scientific knowledge. So you describe the world of a person in the year 2000. Because they were related to either government or consumption. You had some performances in the shopping malls. So if you could tell us how you selected the places for your performances and whether you did it deliberately when you were choosing those places. I think your question already has an answer. It's a very precise question that answers itself, and I can't add anything else. It's a beautiful question. It's just I remember that you said it wasn't really important for you to have your performance in this or that place because you never had that meetings where you, for example, said we have to go to the shopping mall and this is it. It happened just intuitively. I remember that we wanted to focus on 5 elements during our second performance, and then we would choose different spaces. For example, the element of air was related to the Academy of Science. Then Tsaritsына Pond was related to the element of water. Then we were thinking about some places that were related to Foucault. Thank you.